Hello, everybody. I am very honored to be here today and also accompanied by Miriam Cecilia Adame, who is the lead in this effort that we do as a state tourism office. I'd like to make this brief, and so we're just going to focus. First, I have to apologize because the PowerPoint is in Spanish, and I'm going to be speaking in English, so it's going to be confusing, but maybe that'll keep us up. So just to give you some context about Guanajuato. Guanajuato is a state in Mexico. Just to give you an idea, the tourism industry in the world grew around 6%. In Mexico, the tourism activity grew at 12%, and in Guanajuato, it grew 15%. So it's a very thriving activity in the state. We have about 6 million inhabitants in the state of Guanajuato, over 46 municipalities, and the tourism activity supports 8.3. It represents 8.3 of the gross product of the state. This is the fifth state most visited in Mexico. So we have a ranking of destinations in Mexico, so we're number 5. And we market ourselves as the Mexico's cultural destination. Tourism is the second force, the second economic force for the state of Guanajuato. And we have 2 humankind heritage cities in the state. So I'll give you a recap about this, the observatory. We've been working for 8 years. Well, they've been working for 8 years. I just started in September. It's been a work of 15 organizations that are members of this observatory, that they're working and they're making this a part of something that they believe and they buy into, which is very important to make sure that this is sustainable. 26 indicators. This was a question that somebody gave us earlier. We had 2 studies that had come up from the efforts of the observatory, the plan de manejo, how do you say this in English? The charge capacity of San Miguel Allende. I guess that would be a good translation. And also we're working on a study where we can track the behavior of people that are traveling into León City because they're doing shopping, because that's a big thing, apparently. We want to make sure that that's true. We have edited 6 editions, 6 publications of the domestic encounter of observatories in Mexico, and we monitor 17 destinations. So this is the structure of our control panel. We measure 7 dimensions, 38 indicators regarding governance, and now we're moving into the sustainability field. We measure 4 dimensions in that field, and we have 26 indicators. So this was something that we did in order to evolve the observatory, because in the past we were only measuring the economic impact of the activity, and that was not enough. So following the lead of the UNWTO, we wanted to be part of also that, to get that pulse of the sustainability side of the activity. So now we're measuring sustainability, and what we're doing is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 dimensions. That's it. So we have the destinations management, sort of. That would be, I guess, a good translation, where we try to integrate all the resources, all the activities, and that are involved in the public policy, which is important for us. The second one is to have an inclusive economy, and in here we measure the behavior of the visitors and its impact on the destinations. The third one has to do with society and culture, and this has to do with the activities and the results, where we can measure the value of the cultural patrimony of the state. As I said, this is how we market Guanajuato. We say it's Mexico's cultural destination, so we also want to see that interaction between the visitor, the tourist, and the cultural aspect. And finally, medio ambiente. In here we measure the ecologic impact of the tourism activity. So in the first dimension, this is what we measure. We measure the visitor satisfaction, the rooms that are occupied, the room nights, private investment, public investment for the betterment of the infrastructure. We also do work on the certifications of Mexico's Minister of Tourism has certain certifications that you can acquire. You can get an H if you're a restaurant, because that means you know how to handle hygienically food and beverage. And so we follow through also those standards that are part of the Mexico strategy as a country. We also follow, of course, the arrivals at the airport. In terms of the inclusive economy, we measure the visitors of those that have the intention of returning. So we're trying to measure our ability to create loyalty. We also measure the opening of new companies, new suppliers, the arrival of visitors, international visitors into Guanajuato, the arrivals of tourists into hotels, average expenditure per day, the percentage of occupancy, average stay, number of men and women that work in the industry. This is also very important. In Mexico, there's a lot of people involved in the activity. This is a great generator of wealth in Mexico. So this is we also want to mimic this as for the domestic scope into the state. And of course, the economic impact of the arrivals. In terms of society and culture, these are the stuff that we measure. The visitors into archaeological sites, visitors into museums of the state, the arrival of tourists into the destinations that have historic of cultural emphasis. That's not the case on the whole state. For example, León is more industrial. So we cannot just have one picture of the whole state. It will not be fair. We also measure what we do in terms of how would you say, sensibilización turística, to measure the feeling of how people are reacting to the visitors and getting that interaction, getting a feeling of that interaction. And of course, people that arrive and saying that they have a cultural motivation into their visit. And finally, international visitors that arrive because of this motivation. And finally, in the fourth dimension, the medio ambiente, we measure the huella de carbono, the digital mark, the carbon mark that they leave it when they visit a particular event. So for this, we do a special monitoring during an event. We also measure the generation of trash, the quality of air, and the water consumption. So something that they have been very eager is to share this knowledge. In Mexico, this is not a model that a lot of states have. So that's something that we can brag about it, but also something that we want to share because this is a good practice that somehow they have achieved, and we want to make sure that other states or other cities, other destinations in Mexico follow. Yeah. And also some of the people here, we have shared best practices with Panama, we have shared best practices with Guatemala, and that's something that we want to continue doing as we have similarities because we're from the same region. And finally, we would like to invite you. We do this encounter in May next year. We usually do it in May every year. And this is an encounter where we have, it's an international meeting of tourism observatories. We do it in the state of Guanajuato. We still don't know which city is going to host it, but you're more than welcome to attend and get to know our state, of course, but also to see other, best practices from cities in Mexico and from other regions in the area. So basically, that's it. Did I miss anything, Miriam? Okay, so basically, that's it. That's us. I'm Teresa Matamoros. I would love to listen to your questions, but otherwise, there's my contact info. So Miriam, we will be happy to hear from you if you want any further information. Thank you.